I even begin with this intro, there's so much to choose from. So I'm going to give you some bulleted highlights of Jack Rogosin's career and what we just talked about. He drops out of DePaul after a year, but wins first place in the One Club Creativity Show 2 years in a row, then third place his third year. He's worked at a shoe store in Chicago where he's revived customers with Narcan, been in fights, even pepper spray. He got a job at Havas in Chicago as a copywriter, and despite direct advice, a phone call from Gary Vaynerchuk himself, he denied an offer from VaynerMedia, which he's still in good terms with, but took the offer from FCB in Chicago, where he's been doing great work ever since. And after all of that, he's now just decided to get his degree at Columbia University in New York City. Jack Rogosin is equal parts grit and creativity, and he's the furthest thing from conventional. So I need you all to sit down, relax, and listen to how he gets to where he's at today. Because if you currently feel stranded in your professional life or have at any point, this episode will give you the jumpstart you need. But before we get started, go ahead and follow us on Instagram to see and hear from Jack. We got his recommended resource posted there. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and I am your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. Jack Rogosin, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Podcast. What is up, my man?
Nothing much, man. Thanks for having me.
This is going to be a great episode. We were chit-chatting a little bit before. I'm super excited and super interested in your story. You are a copywriter at FCB in Chicago. Am I right on that?
You are.
Yeah. Copywriter FCB. So let's think. Copywriters, 4 years of college experience, maybe 2-3 internships. Maybe you have a minor in literature or history. All that sound good? Is that all right?
Not for me, but for a lot of other people, definitely.
Right. And that's why this episode is going to be great. You definitely do not have that traditional background that we see on this show. So that's why I was so pumped to get you on. I'm excited to hear your story. So break it down. Tell the people about yourself, who you are, where you're from, because you're in California right now.
In California right now, avoiding the Midwest winter. I think it was like 22 degrees in Chicago right now. I was like, oh, fuck that. I'm going to go back home.
Window and it's all snowy and gross out. Yeah.
Whereas I was like outside on a sunbathing for a second, trying to get my tan on. So again, strategic thinking, important in the agency and when you're just trying to keep your ass warm. But no, yeah, I'm originally from the Bay Area. I made my way out to Chicago 6 years ago now, which is insane in its own right. 7 years. It'll be 7 years later this year. And I went to DePaul for a year and a year and some change. And then after that time, they kind of couldn't give me the same financial aid that I needed. Had nothing to do with me being a student. I was, a good student. Only B I got there was in creativity and advertising.
Gotcha.
So that's some shit. So I dropped out after a year and some change and just started working in Chicago and didn't really get into any big agencies.
Let's break that down. So Bay Area, you're like, hey, Chicago's got it going on. So you said DePaul was the right school for you. What drew you to DePaul and Chicago in general?
They just gave me the most financial aid. I never toured the school once. I'd been to Chicago for a weekend.
Man, what a great, I didn't do the city school vibe, but if I were to, DePaul, location, just the campus in Lincoln Park area, that place is awesome.
It's a fun place, and it's definitely not your traditional college experience. You're not going to see too many people doing keg stands or going to any of the games, but it's what you make it, and it's a great place.
Yeah. So, but you were like, they said, well, it is expensive. It's an expensive school.
Absolutely.
And they weren't able to help you enough. So you said, I'm out.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to either move back with my folks or to try and make it on my own. And my mom was very clear that if I came back home, I was going to be paying rent. And I was like, well, if I'm going to be paying rent there, I'll just live here in Chicago without any rules.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. So pay rent in the Bay Area or in Chicago. You stayed in Chicago. What did you do? Where did you go to?
Yeah, so in the first little bit, I think I did what, everyone does, and you get the jobs that you can. So I worked at a summer camp. I worked at just some small internships to kind of, for I worked on a Senate race as a communications intern. Um, but then we hit this kind of patch where I couldn't get into any of those internships that really gonna move my career along. Not only was I getting rejected from all the big places, the BBDOs, the DDBs, et cetera, the Ogilvies, I was getting rejected from small shops. So I was like, well, what the hell am I going to do? And so I started applying to restaurants, and I got rejected from pretty much every job you can imagine. I even got rejected from a McDonald's at one
No
time.
way.
Swear to God, walked in, they said, we're not looking for like seasonal help. And I'm like, this isn't seasonal, man. Like, I need money. I
Oh man.
still remember that, the Ashland and Barry McDonald's.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but yeah, so I got my best friend in Chicago got me a job working at this shoe store. And it's a shoe store in a shitty part of town. And it's not like a Foot Locker. It's locally owned. The dude in there, I mean, our clientele is a bunch of gang members, drug dealers. I mean, I'm talking about windows getting shot out on a regular basis.
Okay.
My boss plays dice with the customers. We
Sure.
we sell everything for the low, police raids, all that fun stuff.
Build some character.
You know what? It definitely built character, and I actually learned so much in that job about things that I use now, whether it's just like the confidence of, speaking to things in client meetings or just how to
Sure.
talk to different audiences.
Yeah.
Um, but I hated it. I hated every second of it.
So you
And
didn't
so
want to do that for 5, 10 years?
I did it for 4.5 years, and I just, I still worked
Wow.
on the side, just even when I was working in agencies, because when you're not relying on it for your income to make rent, you can take more out of that experience, and it's like, oh, it's cool, you get to be around people you wouldn't normally be
Mhm.
around. And I'm a sneakerhead, so being around that and getting access to those shoes was awesome.
Nice.
But I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. And there were a couple experiences for me that I really was just like, I don't want to be here forever. And so I started applying to different internships, and I watched my friends get hired at Leo Burnett and DDB and Ogilvy and all, the big movers and shakers. And
Yeah.
I just kind of wanted my shot. And I never got it. I never had a big agency come out of the woodwork and accept me no matter how many places. I mean, I literally applied to every single agency in Chicago over the course of 2.5, 3 years.
Wow.
Never really got past a phone screen. And it was the
Screw that.
summer before that kind of changed for me. So
Yeah. I mean, okay. So you applied I mean, a lot of people can resonate now. How old were you at this time when you were applying to all these agencies? What year was it?
let's see, I would have been between starting in sophomore, junior, what would have been my sophomore, junior year, and then I didn't really see break until um, after what would have been my senior year.
Okay. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
I worked small jobs and I competed in competitions too. So I competed in the one club, creative boot camp. So when I was 18, I won first place in that and got the
Nice.
interview with Leo Burnett. Gave me a job, said I was too young. The
Damn.
next year, won it again, first place. Didn't get the job then either. Got the interview. They said you had to be a rising senior or in college to qualify for their internship. Came back a
Wow.
third year, won it again. This
First
time
place?
third place.
Third
No, two
place.
first places and a third. Um, and I remember going up to the recruiter and they're just like, yeah, like you're not enrolled in school and like there's nothing we can do. I was like, all right, I'll
And
remember that.
yeah, I already know where this is going. So when you win the one club, obviously I wouldn't know, but you get an interview with a big agency if you win it, and it's always Leo Burnett, or is it different every year?
No, so every year is different. In this case, this was the Chicago Creative Boot Camp. It was sponsored by Leo Burnett. Leo Burnett puts up the money every year to pay for the food, to
Sure.
host the one club, to do all these different things, and they bring in their creative directors and strategists and other people that can help kind of push the work along. But
Yeah.
essentially, they're the sponsoring agency for the Chicago event,
Yep. Yep. They sponsor a
and
lot in Chicago. Yeah.
yeah, and they're the biggest agency in town, so I think it kind of makes sense for them to lead the way on that.
Yeah.
But I definitely say as someone that really wanted to at one point work at Leo Burnett. see it, um, to get that close all those times and be told no, it was like, fuck, when do I get a break, man?
That's tough. That's tough because they're talking to you. You earned it, and they said, you're at first they said you were too young, and then they said
Yep.
you're not enrolled. So,
Yep.
wow.
And you have, and then there's other, there's other people that are more explicit. I'm not gonna, I'm not drag anybody, but it's like at a certain point you're like, all right, if I'm good enough to win this thing, first place twice, but place 3 years in a row. At the time, I was the youngest person to do it, and the only person that I think has won 3 of them from the last time I talked to folks out there.
You're a
It was
beast.
damn, like I can't get a shot, can't even get a break.
Right.
But it makes you better in the long run.
So did you give up? Did you say, I'm all right, maybe this industry is not for me? What happened after that?
Yeah, that was kind of like my come to Jesus moment. I saw friends working at Burnett, at DDB, at Ogilvy again, and I was like, well, fuck, like I got to do something, to help me break out. So I came up with a creative way to, and I'd tried a bunch of different shit in the past that failed, but I was like, let me take something that, this idea of a creative resume and turn it into a campaign that really demonstrates my thinking and my personality. So I treated it as an opportunity to brand myself. So I came up with this persona called the stranded intern. The stranded intern is yeah, it's me, and that's great, but it was really supported by this idea that no matter where you are in your career, you've probably been stuck at one point or another. And I think that's something that everybody can relate to. It doesn't matter if you're the CCO or the CEO, or you're an intern trying to break in. People have always felt like they're not where they're supposed to be at some point or another. So for me, it was my opportunity to demonstrate to agencies, no, I can do this shit. I can come up with the insight. I can come up with a big idea. I can show you how that copy comes to life. So I created this video with some help from my friends. This person helped me on their birthday. It was their birthday, and they helped me make this video, which is to me still like such an amazing. But yeah, they helped me make this video of my bottle rolling through the city of Chicago. It's on Instagram as the stranded intern, and I had all these different posts in it, which would feature a picture of the bottle and a headline, and then it would direct them back to my resume, which was housed on another Instagram account. So the video goes out. I post it on LinkedIn and Instagram, and it gets a shit ton of views. I posted there, and then I start sending my bottle out, and that was right. Yeah. So I sent people. I found the recruiters. I sent them the bottle. And Havas got back to me 2 days later, I think.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, and I had about a half dozen agencies in New York reached out to me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Havas was going through such a time because their CISO was exiting. There was like this big, like, it's a toxic workplace, and there was just a lot of issues. But I was like, I'm selling sneakers in a shitty part of town. Boom, like, let me take this. And it ended up being, I mean, it was, the people that let me on there, John Nussbaum and Jordan Parisi, and God, who else was it? Ayana and Ariana and Lexi, and all these people that I met at Havas ended up totally taking, they took a shot on me, and they gave me, access to, real clients and real brands that I could put in my portfolio that helped me get to that next level.
Wow.
So
I have a really, I think very highly of Havas in Chicago as a really creative shop, and not a lot of great shops are in Chicago, but definitely Havas ranks high up in the top of my mind when I think creativity in Chicago for sure.
yeah, and I mean, working there is like, I mean, it's what I loved about Havas was if you are hungry, there's literally nothing off limits. And part of that was just you go in there and you meet these creative directors that like actually give a shit about you, which like you can
Nice.
work at great agencies and you'll have creative directors that don't give a fuck about you. But at Havas, my partner and I mean, we really had a handful of people that were really invested in helping us get to that next level, and not just at Havas. And it's that's an amazing thing to have
Nice.
people that are that invested in you, and to everything was on. There's nothing at the table. You said, "I'm hungry. I want to work on that." You could get in that bad at that.
What was in the bottle?
It was literally just my resume, and then on the outside, it had a tag with a personal message that I would write out by hand to whoever the recruiter was, or the ECD, or the person that I was addressing this bottle to.
Handwritten message.
Handwritten message. The resume, I'm going to be honest, I don't think a single person probably took the resume out of the bottle, because I don't know. I can't imagine someone doing that, because I made sure that it was idiot proof so that it was easy to pull out. So it had this little string. But I think that it, people visited the Instagram, and that's where it housed the content.
Amazing. Wow. That is insane. So Havas reached out to you first and you picked them. I mean, did you wait? Did you look at any other agencies, or is it just like showtime?
I had like another job lined up. I'm trying to remember where it was, but it was not in like a creative capacity.
Okay.
But Havas, when they reached out, I was just like, fuck yeah. And keep in mind, I had applied to Havas 2 or 3 other times previously, and I'd never gotten anything. One time I like made a video totally dissing their CCO. Like, that was my application. I was like, oh, fuck this guy. And I was like, why didn't they hire me? And, years later, the recruiter that saw that, I like met her at 3%, and she was just like, you're the kid that dissed our CCO. And I was like, that's me.
That's awesome.
But yeah, don't do that. They don't like that. I mean, he got fired, but
whatever. So maybe you were right.
And I don't know. I feel like it still comes off kind of obnoxious, but here we are.
Yeah. All right. That's so cool. Okay, let's break that down a little bit. So looking back, the stranded intern was the persona, this character that was you, but it embodied basically everybody in their career, like you said, has gone through that moment where they feel stranded. And especially now with the pandemic, a lot of our listeners feel stranded and all that. So you created this persona, this campaign, you would say, right?
Yeah, I think that's I think a lot of people do really creative resumes. With me, the one place that I try to differentiate a little bit is I wanted to take the idea of a creative resume and put it through the lens of how they would create pain. So insight informs the big idea, informs all these different tactics that ladder back up to this idea of solving the problem at hand, which is, I don't want to be working a shitty job selling sneakers. I want a legit job.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's so creative and interesting. Props to you. Did you feel like you had to go above and beyond because you didn't have that traditional college background? And
Yeah, I think I had a chip on my shoulder. I still do. About I think a lot of times when recruiters say stuff to you, they think that it's innocuous, that their words don't carry weight. But when you're told you're not enough X amount of times, like, you take that shit to heart. And for me, that was that I wanted to prove myself, and I also felt like I wasn't good enough. And I think that when I looked at the other people, there were really talented interns that got hired alongside us at Havas, my partner and I, strategists, creatives. I mean, I remember just looking at their portfolios, like, I don't have anything like that. I didn't have, I had this work that had been in the one club that had won these awards, but I didn't have real client work, really. And I had to prove that my thinking was going to be it was going to make a positive impact when I got there. So I think when you don't have that, oh, I went to a 4-year school, or I went to portfolio school, you're inherently, you're preparing yourself to work, maybe not harder, but differently than those other people.
Absolutely. And in some cases, you probably don't work as hard in the job search process. And that could be some sort of complacency where you think you got it all because you got that piece of paper that costs $100,000 or whatever. So
Totally. I mean, it's like, even at the agencies that we've worked at, both Havas and FCB, and interviewing at other agencies over the years, it's like I've been in the room where the creative director has been like, well, the other guy's from Northwestern. The other guy, did Northwestern in portfolio school. The other guy did U Chicago, Harvard. I mean, I literally remember, I'm trying to remember what agency it was, but it was like the other candidate that was a finalist graduated from Yale and then went to took design classes in the summer at SCAD. And I was like, well, how the fuck am I going to compete with that shit? Like,
wow.
I've been selling sneakers. So, I
That's
think
so
there
cool
is that.
though.
Yeah.
I
And,
mean,
it all worked out, but you definitely think, that can be a pain in the ass.
yeah. But you didn't get discouraged. You kept going. And that, I mean, what a crazy break-in story. That's got to be one. This got to be one for the classics of the Breaking and Entering podcast.
Hey, I'll take it, man. I hope
Yeah.
maybe someone will listen to it and they'll do something smarter than sending a bottle. I feel like that was low hanging fruit, but
Hey,
you know,
it worked. I mean,
it worked.
yeah. I mean, I mean, that's clever stuff. And I mean, who wouldn't want to hire you for that? But I mean, where do we take it from here? So how'd you do when you got into Havas? You know, did you feel comfortable? Was there some imposter syndrome? Was there a learning curve? What was that like once you got there? And did you pick it up quickly?
I think I did pick it up pretty quickly. I did have other internship experience. I worked at Plan B for a little bit. I worked at a place called the Monogram Group. I had experience, but I didn't have it working on like consumer facing brands in the same way that Havas
Mhm.
gave me the
The big
opportunity.
leagues. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I also I still feel this way. It's like I'm always trying to like make that recruiter that rejected me at Leo Burnett be like, listen, like y'all said no.
Hmm.
So that really motivated me. I think there is definitely a learning curve because the stuff that will pass as like work in the one show or things like that doesn't have the same kind of constraints that client work has. The
Right.
other thing is presenting to clients. I had never really presented anything to clients before Havas, and my mentors were like, "No, you're gonna present. Like that's how this works." So
Oof.
they, whether it was working on Moen with John Nussbaum and John Ekman and Ariana and Lexi, they were like, that's your work. You have to own it. If the client has questions, you have to
Yeah.
explain why.
Yep.
And that was amazing. And then similarly on for Mike's Hard Lemonade, and when we were pitching this Expedia company, the creative director Chelsea, who's walks on water, and was so good to my partner and I, was like, no, no, you're coming to the presentation. Brought us to the client's office and let us present. I keep in mind our internship had ended like a week before, and they were like,
Wow.
"All right, Jack, go read that thing."
And
So
how'd
I
it
think
go?
that hey, we won the business. We won the cheap tickets business. So,
Nice.
and that's who we worked on that with one of your other guests, Lacey.
Lacey Gilbert. Yeah.
Yeah.
It all comes full circle. Wow, that's incredible. That is so cool. Um, and now let's jump to FCB now. So you did well at Havas. You learned a lot. When did you jump on over to FCB?
Let's see. Internship ended in March. I worked at Havas until June. Um, at that time, my partner and I were looking for the next thing. We narrowed down our agencies to Vayner in New York and FCB.
Hmm.
And we got a call from Gary V at like 6 a.m. our time.
Like
And we were just
himself?
like literally Gary V called us and like was like, I want you guys to come aboard. And we're just like, all right, I need some coffee. This is crazy because like I fuck with Gary Vee on like a when you're working at a shoe store and you listen to his podcast and you're
Oh
like
my
it's not very
gosh, that is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah that's he is a fucking character, that dude.
He called you at
um
6 in the. What was that
it was set
application
up. It was
process?
what?
What was that application process like? Or I mean, like you and your partner, uh, how'd you get your foot in the door at both FCB and Vayner? But like, let's talk about this Vayner real quick because this is entertaining. Like,
Yeah. Okay,
how'd
so
you
they
get to
haven't
that call?
okay, so and forgive my memory because I smoked too
Yeah,
much pot, I guess, and I can't
yeah,
remember.
all
But
good.
I think I messaged. I can't remember if I just randomly applied or if I direct messaged Erica Cologne. But Erica Cologne was their head of creative recruiting. Shout out to Erica. She's awesome. I was actually just texting with her earlier today because she's another one of those people that just walks on water. Um, and I told her the story of just kind of the same stuff. And I'm like, this is where I'm at. And she was like, fuck yeah. So we interviewed on the GE account, my partner and I, and yeah, it just went really well. And the question was really, were we ready to move to New York? And that's where that all came from. And so then we were like, hey, we got this offer from FCB, and I don't know, something about it just felt really right. We met with these people that would go on to become our creative directors, and one of them's like really nice and like outgoing, and like you can tell he's super interested. And the other one is like kind of quiet, so you can't really read him. Like I've worked for this man for like 2 years now, and I still can't read him.
Okay.
And he's there. They ended up both being fantastic. And so what it came to is we told Erica, we're like, hey, like we love this opportunity, and like Vayner, it seems like they're doing really cool stuff, but it requires a move. And for where we're at in our career right now, this is where we need to go. And she goes, all right, we'll just talk to Gary. And we're like, okay, like Gary? And they're like, yep. And Gary called us at some like ungodly early hour of the morning. Like we had it scheduled, but he was in like London, I think.
Oh, okay.
And it was supposed to be like a 15-minute call, and it ended up turning into a 30-minute call. And God bless Gary, because he told us if we ever went to FCB, it would be the worst decision we ever made.
Oh my gosh.
But it was like, but no. If you hear it like that, it sounds like really mean, but like,
no, that's how he is.
Yeah. It's just like, that's Gary for you. So we ended up, and we were just like, hey, like, and the two people that we met from GE also were like super talented. One of this dude is a senior art director that had recently come over from Droga 5. The other one had actually been with Vayner since its inception. He was like employee hire number 9.
Wow.
And the work that they're doing is awesome over there. So props to those guys. But yeah, it wasn't even that we obviously, like, when you're working at the shoe store, you're devouring content because you want to feel like you're in an agency and you want to feel like you're in the know.
Right.
I definitely think that, Gary Vee's great with context. Like everything he says needs a shit ton of context. Don't like, but it was really cool to get that call and to hear from a guy like that. And, he had looked at the work, I guess, and liked what he saw. And that was just a really cool moment. But it wasn't the right move. And we're still, still on great terms. I ended up dropping by Vayner when I was in New York last year, and just walked the halls with them, thanks to Erica. And I didn't burn any bridges there because they were so understanding about it. We just kept it, kept it 100. And we're like, this is where we're at. But we went to FCB, and at FCB we found a group of people that were really trying to do shit differently, and they were just nice. And there wasn't any ego. And I think that, like, everyone says that. They're like, this agency, there isn't ego. Like, don't get me wrong. There's a shit ton of ego at FCB. There's a lot of ego that, shouldn't be there. But the team that we got on were just down to earth, genuinely nice people. And we thought that, coming from a really non-traditional agency like Havas, we thought that our careers could really benefit from a little of the structure, a little bit of learning the bureaucracy, having that name of the second largest ad agency in Chicago. So we did, and we've worked on some of the coolest shit you could work on. So it's been really great.
What you keep saying your partner? How does this work? Is this like
I guess I met my partner Yevon Lee, who is the brains of the operation, right?
Shout out
to Yevon, walks on water. I mean, like, seriously, the woman could be a CCO right now. She is one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. So strategic, puts up with my shit most of the time. I mean, you can't ask for anything better in a partner.
There you go.
We were paired together randomly. As she tells the story, when we first got paired, I sat there and I didn't say anything. And ever since then, I haven't shut the fuck up. We randomly got paired together from the internship. We, I guess, distinguished ourselves. And we just were like, hey, like, this works. Why mess with a good thing? And so we worked at Havas together. We're extended after, and then we went to FCB, and we've been partnered there.
So you're like a package deal, like this is it.
Deal.
Wow.
So some people, I feel like it's pretty common. It's less common for juniors to get hired from an agency, or like it's less hired to be hired as a junior team. Usually you get matched, when you get to an agency. But I think that made it easier for us to place, because they're like, less paperwork, like awesome, less interview rounds.
Right. Yeah, and you guys work so well together, and it just makes sense. That's awesome. I don't think account has that.
Nope, no equivalent for account.
No.
Unless I've obviously heard of, like, account soups and account directors pulling AEs and double A's with them. on
Yeah.
different things, but nothing
Yeah.
package deal like that.
There's that camaraderie that you guys have in the creative side of the industry that I'm so jealous of, and
Yeah.
I want that, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe that's the next evolution. I know some agencies were toying around with, and I totally forget what it is, but it was like a 2x4 idea, and it was like 4 creatives, 1 account, 1 strategist, but they
Ooh,
work to problem solve together.
that'd be
Um,
cool.
yeah, I wish I could remember who that was.
Yeah, nice. So you had the choice between VaynerMedia. Gary Vaynerchuk calls you up. He probably speaks 1,000 miles per minute. Um, he was like, "Don't you dare go to FCB. It'll be the worst decision of your life." Yada yada yada. And you go FCB, and you don't regret it. Your
No,
team was super chill, is super chill, smart, and you don't regret it.
no regrets there. I mean, I feel like if I had burned a bridge over at Vayner, maybe I would have regrets, but
Sure.
like Erica was so cool. It was just, yeah, it was just a really positive
Nice,
experience.
nice, nice. So what? And you've been there for how long now?
Been at FCB almost coming up on 2 years. Is it?
Wow.
Yeah, been
So
there for a while. And
2 years is kind of long for agency life. I mean,
yeah,
turnaround is what, 2 to 3 years usually?
I think it totally depends
Yeah.
on the agency, and it depends on
Hmm.
burnout, what your clients are. But yeah, I
Sure.
think that I feel like they say that creatives get the itch after a year. Um,
Hmm.
Luckily, I always have the itch. I'm just like, what's next? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
that's internally or externally. So.
Nice, nice. And are you still a fan of sneakers? Do you stop by the shoe shop whenever?
I when I'm in Chicago, I still work there on the weekends, and I just, it's like
Oh,
like, oh
you
yeah,
still work there?
fuck yeah. I was like,
Wow.
it's like when I used to hate it there so much. I was
What's it
so
called?
fucking miserable because it's like you're getting into fist fights, you're getting pepper sprayed, or you know what I mean. The windows are getting shot out. I once like revived a dude with Narcan, like all this crazy shit, right? And you're like, I fucking hate this. But also so many, when you're working there with your best friend, and the store, the family that owns it, they're like my adopted family. They just like taken me
Mhm.
in, and they're and you get to learn so much. So the family that owns it is Korean. They speak almost entirely Korean in the store, but they kind of, you watch, the manager's kids grow up, and you go to you go out to dinner with them and stuff like that. Over the years it turned into a really, really positive thing, even though the
Wow.
first few were really rough.
What's
So
it called? Where can people go and buy those shoes?
P&J Footwear, 1643 West Howard Street. Yeah, it's just a hoot. You never know who you're gonna see there. We get the most random celebrities in there that stop by.
Like who?
In terms of like ones that stop by on a regular day, like a daily basis when they're in town. I'd say, we get Bears players in all the time. Shawnee Davis, who's like the most decorated winter black Olympian, will come in there and like he'll just like hang out with us. He's like friends with them.
Oh, that's so
A
cool.
lot of like people from WGCI stop by. Um, who else? There's big like sneakerhead like nerds
Mhm.
will come through.
Gotcha.
What was it? Windy City Soul. Who? God, I mean, there's been so many people that are like actually memorable that I'm like blanking on it. Don C used to come by. He's pretty cool. I guess he used to hang out in the neighborhood. Sean, what's his name? He's also a DJ. Where is it? The fedora. But anyways,
That's so cool. Um, nice, nice. I think let's transition now because great story, man. This is so cool. I've been having a lot of fun with this, but let's transition now to like some general advice you have because, like you said, strangled, the stranded intern persona really probably applies and resonates with our listeners out there. So, from somebody that was stranded, not strangled, um, speak out to those people now because they need that voice. They need some inspiration. Whatever you have to say to them advice wise, they want to hear it. And how do they get out of that limbo that is the job search in a pandemic?
totally. I think that people have been saying for the longest time that you need to do something that like distinguishes yourself. So I would say don't be adverse to the idea of stunts. But the other thing is just continuing to network. And I know everyone says like, oh, network and that, but it's like no, it's bigger than that. Like you're in advertising, your network is your net worth. If you have
Mhm.
those connections, that adds value to you. But also be cognizant of how you manage those relationships. if you're going to reach out to someone, be on time. If you're going to reach out to them, have a specific thing you want to talk to them about. Building those inroads seem small when you're trying to land the internship, but they end up paying off tenfold down the road. I can't tell you over the last year how many people I had tried to get time with at other agencies in town that have been like, hey, can you pass my resume along? Or, hey, I saw this. Hey, you should really talk to this person. Whether they saw like the podcast on We Are Next, or they, saw something in Ad Week, whatever those things were. That network just grows and it becomes a more powerful resource. So I would say to the people that are looking, right now, take advantage of the fact that everyone's at home. It's expensive to network when there isn't a pandemic. People think that it's just calling you up, but it's not. When you're working a minimum wage job, that means taking time off during the week. It means being prepared to, even if you don't have to, having to buy a coffee for two. It means the transportation there. These things are expensive. So in the immediacy, take advantage of the fact that everyone is stuck at home. Make those inroads. Ask for specific advice. Don't just say, I wanted to pick your brain. Say, I wanted to pick your brain on my portfolio and what I could do to whatever those things are. If people think there's a specific problem they can help you solve, they're much more inclined to give you their time because it doesn't feel like they're cashing a blank check.
And do you let them know that specific problem before you meet up with them?
I think it depends. It's obviously going to be a little bit different for creative strategists, etc. But I think in my case, I can't tell you how many people I've gotten ghosted by, or just like, that don't respond. Like even people now, I'm like, hey, I'm a mid-level copywriter at FCB and I'd love to just pick your brain on this. And they'll just be like, no, or they don't respond.
No response. What
I mean? But I think that when I've had the most success, it's been like, hey, this is what I'm doing, or this is what I've done. This is what I'm doing. I would love to get your input on the way I could, prepare myself for this, or I'm really trying to work on this to position myself well within the agency. Do you have 15 minutes to talk with me about your situation? And creatives are vain as fuck. They love hearing their own voice, myself included.
Yeah. Wow. That's great advice, man. And well said. This was all well said. I can tell you're a great copywriter just in this conversation.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Cool. Any recommended resources, anything else that you want to say to listeners out there? Any we talked about the shoe shop. Anything else you want to shout out that you found helpful?
There's just so many people at FCB that have been just awesome at getting me like cool opportunities. So I just say, more so than going to an agency that has the most flash and the most, whatever, go to the place that's going to give you the most at bats. When we came to FCB, everyone was like, it's a shithole. You're going to fucking hate it there. It's so corporate, blah, blah. And then now it's like, it's Ad Week Global Network of the Year. So it's like, I don't know. I would just say, no matter if people are going to write, it's not all the drogas and the wides and the stuff like that. Sometimes it's like, they're going to pay you and they're going to give you an opportunity to work your ass off. So don't dismiss any agency. Don't dismiss any contact. Definitely check out We Are Next. Everything Natalie Kim does is fantastic. Stay up to date with the One Club. Stay up to, if you're a creative, the Young Shits is fantastic. I always love seeing the work that comes out of that. Don't fucking listen to LinkedIn influencers. They're fucking stupid. Like, generally speaking, they're fucking dumb. Like, if they're posting their website in every single post that they make, they're not interested in helping people besides themselves. So just like context.
Yep. Yeah. Love it. I agree with all that. Great. Well, Jack, can they reach out to you if they have any questions and they're specific and they are timely?
Or if they just want to get a virtual coffee or beer until this thing is over, hit my line. Obviously, I think my LinkedIn will be tagged in here. Shoot me a DM. Shoot me an email at my work email. It's just my first name .last at fcb.com. Man, thanks so much for having me. This has seriously been awesome.
Yeah, this has been great. Thanks so much, Jack. We will talk soon.
Sounds good, man.
Peace. Thank you so much for listening to this episode with Jack Rogosin. He is an amazing guest, an amazing human. So please reach out to him and connect on LinkedIn. And thank you to Mikey Malarkey, our audio technician, Buchun Zhang, our creative director, and the Midnight Oil student team from the University of Illinois. Thank you to all. We will see you next week.